Sign them on what? I don't know.
You got a pen?
Too many of this.
Because I always go to the long house for me. With me and Bill. My next year in school. I'm trying to get my GPA. Yeah, Bill. Bill and I are over at Ned's place.
I've been working on it. I've been working on it. It's not. There's a road district. 4 years.
They still gotta get paid.
But it's not really shared.
So,
It's like having insurance. It's like having 11 separated.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that have the majority
Come on, man, get it together.
Yeah, that kind of blows that theory out. That guy did a good job. Bush did a good
If he doesn't get it, I'm paying him. He might. So I'm gonna sign up later. So if you see me go to the phone,
No, I thought you were saying we're not turning it off. He didn't see it. They didn't get it now. They were traders. I'll be honest with you.
I think. Mike's got a real signage here, Mike. And then-
Oh, no, just give it to Craig.
Huh?
Just give that to Craig, yeah.
Sign that on yours, Craig.
Just so you know.
See, mine.
That's what they should have been here, right?
No, you're speaking them, they don't listen.
Take your money manipulated, but the minute they approve it, they're off that list. You know, come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like now they can ready you know what? It's still and the same thing in 2016. The only thing that GM Mexico they're west of the other 11 and they're totally stamped.
I just want to know.
That's right. And data from the other side.
Wrestle, more wrestling. It's good though. Well, I know what happens as soon as I get out of school.
Yeah, I've had that for a long time.
So, I enjoy it.
My oldest, well, we'll be married 53 years in June, so my oldest is Johnny turns.
Right now, my head, 72, 37, 71.
Greg is gonna keep it like so it has to
We'll let everybody get seated. Everyone can sit down, seated, thank you, and then we'll get going.
All right, we seem to have everybody in. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:13 probably. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first section of our meeting is public comment. There's a sheet back there to sign up on if you want to make a comment. Please sign the sheet if you haven't. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. I have a timer here that will beep. I will try to tell you when you're down to 30 seconds. Okay, the first person I have for public comment is Judith Gottlieb. Judith?
My name is Judy Gottlieb. I live at 2814 Regner Road in Mchenry. I've been working on trying to pull together financial information about the 4 most populous townships in Mchenry County, which would be Algonquin, Mchenry, Dorr, and Nunda. I don't have those figures for you because it's complicated dealing with levies and budgets. So I hope I will have that information for future meetings, because I think it's really important for us to understand where we're starting from in terms of costs. And just a brief note that the county highway system runs well over $100,000 a mile. Now, admittedly, these are the major highways, and they are going to be much more expensive than local roads. The best of my understanding at this point is that the Nunda, Mchenry, and Dorr all are in the $30,000 to $40,000 per mile range for their roads. Now, one of the things that makes it complicated to look at just looking at the dollar numbers is that there's a lot of change going on in these road districts as they work to incorporate what were non-dedicated roads. And Mchenry Township in particular had a lot of those. Maybe 20 to 25% of the population in the township lived on roads that were not public. So bringing those in is something that I personally see as a local government responsibility, because so many citizens are living in those areas. Secondly, because of that, it's also hard to assess a cost per mile, because each of the highway commissioners that I've spoken to, they not only address the township roads that are assigned to them by the state. They may be plowing on contract, doing repairs. There are a number of other things that they do as a part of this job of bringing together all the people in the community get the services that they deserve and pay for. So, anyway, I hope to have other financial figures at a later meeting for people to look at, to try to understand, and I will try to explain. And I know that the staff will also
30
do that.
seconds, okay.
30 seconds, so, that's mainly what I wanted to say. I think we're really lucky to have an experienced professional engineer as a highway commissioner, because I can assure you, he probably saves the township $30,000 or $40,000 a year in engineering fees. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Robert Beltran, I have.
Hi, Robert Beltran, coincidentally also at 2814 Regner Road, Mchenry. I know that lady. And you folks have seen me before and heard me before. But not everyone has heard me, so I guess I'll say some of the same things. I think it's exceedingly premature to go into this without a comprehensive study of the costs and the benefits of dissolving the township and doing away with the highway commission. I don't like to do potentially extremely expensive things or extremely damaging things without some grasp of what the consequences are going to be. And unfortunately, the advocates have not stipulated exactly what their plans are down the road. The resolution simply says that they, the trustees, will collectively become responsible for the duties of the highway commissioner. This is, of course, with no training, no experience, no expertise, and they've also not given us any direction about what their ultimate plans are for, are they going to contract that position out? Are they going to contract all the positions out? Are they going to completely dissolve the capacity for taking care of the roads and just contract the entire thing out? Who's going to manage that? What kind of expertise will that person have? Will they have to hire a professional? Will it be from a engineering corporation, engineering company that is going to have to assign an engineer, and of course, whatever his salary is, the engineering firm will ultimately double that cost, so that they're making a profit and covering their own expenses.
Okay, Bob, 30 seconds.
There's way too much uncertainty in this, and I can only see that if you want to go into something blind like this, either it's so obvious that you will either you will benefit from it, that's totally obvious to everybody, or you prefer to go into it blind because you don't want anybody to know what the consequences will be, because they may not like it. So those are the only two reasons I can see why they don't want to do a study.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, next I have Kathy Martin.
Hi, my name is Kathy Martin. I live at 4817 Joyce Lane in Mchenry. I don't think I'll take 3 minutes. I just want to say that I'm a little shocked and astounded that you guys would do this without getting facts and data. It seems like an awfully big decision to make without knowing what you're getting into. I know the road district is one of the things where I can actually physically see my tax dollars working for me. I've never had a problem with it. My roads have always been plowed. I think you guys are making a mistake to try and rush this through. That's it. Thank you.
Michael Friend.
My name is Mike Friend, live at 739 Big Sky Trail in Cary. I have the unique honor of paying 2 tax invoices, one for where I live in Cary, which is Adjournment Township. I'm also a co-owner of commercial real estate in Mchenry, so I can pay Mchenry Township taxes as well. Some of the things I'm concerned about, been to a couple meetings, listened to stuff online as well. I continue to feel that when we look at our tax bills, this township represents the smallest percentage of the total taxes that are paid by all of us. So I just think we have the wrong priority. To me, we should be starting with school districts first, figure out how we can cut some of the fat there and figure out how to save money that way first. I also getting a little upset with continue to read in the paper about how this board says one of the reasons you want to do this or need to do this is you feel you have no oversight, no governance over the road district. But again, when I'm looking at the board's very own website, the township's website, where it has a page about what are the board's responsibilities, in there it does state that one of your responsibilities is to review all the invoices, the budgets, the levies, everything of the town, not only the township, but also the road district. And of the meetings I've been present at, there's always a part in the agenda, the normal meetings, there's a part in the agenda where you're reviewing a report from Mr. Condon, where he's saying what he had to spend since the last meeting, what he needs to spend in upcoming, where you get to vote yay or nay on that. So I'm not buying that you don't have any governance, and that's the reason why you have to do this consolidation. I agree with the get all the facts folks here. I think the cost study is necessary. I also think that there's lots of citizens here, or there's lots of local business men and women here. There's some even on the board. I mean, if one of your best clients, Mr. Anderson, would say, you do such a great job cutting here, I think you should maybe open a second location in McHenry. My guess is you're not just going to jump out and go do that. You're going to say, is there enough demand in McHenry for me to open a second shop? You know, what would it cost me to lease something? How many people would I have to hire to cut more heads? What would I have to charge? You would basically look at all the numbers and say, does this make sense for me? And so I think, based on being elected officials, that's what we're asking you to do for this type of a matter. I also think part of getting all the facts is there any letter of intent from the county or McHenry or Johnsburg? Are they really willing to take on these obligations as Mr. Sweeney's bill would be having them do? I mean, the one meeting I was here, this board was discussing about having 4 lawsuits that the board is dealing with. So why would the county want to take those obligations on? And is there anything that has to be a little bit more formal that yes, they're willing to take on those obligations before we put this to the ballot and have the public vote on it? So I'm more in favor of all the facts. Lastly, I'd be more of a proponent of reversing this. When I look at the services provided by the township, I think those are services that could be provided by other nonprofit religious organizations. As far as I know, there's a lot of elderly help that this provides here, but Salvation Army, all of them, they're not going to plow roads, and that is the one thing that is tangible, like the lady just said.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Next I have I'm not sure, Joe Manny, maybe?
Hi, Joe Maney, president of Wonder Woods Association, and we were about 9 years supporter of the non-dedicated roads. I'm also a project manager by trade, and in 47 years, I've helped my company build a $400 million company that employs 1,000 people. One of my fears is getting a new president. I have to start all over again, teach him the tricks of the trade, teach him all the ropes, and that's not a committee, that's a single person. You know, the transfer of power and experience and the details and all the things that contribute to that, I'm going to have a very difficult time transferring when I retire. There's enough turnover that the people that I start training may not be there at that point. So the transferring of experience is not something that goes to a committee. You have to have a personal involvement and a personal attachment. And I just feel that, you know, how is my service going to be when I have to wait for a committee decision, you know? I think, you know, this is a very risky thing, and, you know, as most people are pointing out, I think not enough information has been shared.
Okay, thank you. I have Carol Persky.
I only ask that my name and address not be included in the timer. All right, my name is Carol Persky, and I live at 5114 Northwest Wood Drive, unincorporated Mchenry. I agree, there are opportunities for efficiency to consolidate some townships for the ability, equipment usage, staff, and services. I'm not here to say the concept shouldn't be untouchable. Well, a while back, Grafton was poster child for change, and now what's going on in Algonquin is horrible. They should all be ashamed. If we believe the stories that are in the paper, they're not doing the best interest for their township. To simply eliminate townships using those two as examples is wrong. Until now, Mchenry Township served their constituents without drama, excessive legal costs, and negative headlines. But now, trustees are considering a resolution for the November ballot to eliminate the road district, claiming it will reduce real estate taxes without providing any specifics of the savings amount. Trustees are responsible for the fiscal viability of the township. Budgets and costs are exact, to the penny. Real estate bills are horribly high and are calculated to a specific dollar amount. How can this resolution be proposed without exact details of the amount of the tax savings? This is like throwing a bowl of whatever against the wall and hoping something sticks. How can you, those most responsible for the finances of this organization, do this without specific details? The concept is, let the people decide. Decide what? How can the public make a decision if this will be good for them without the details of the cost savings? Is your campaign simply eliminate a layer of government and reduce the taxes? What if you do all this and the taxes don't decrease, even increase? Do you pat yourselves on the back and say you tried, that's that? Do you call that being fiscally responsible? Do you honestly believe that eliminating, say the township, giving it to the county, other municipalities, that they're going to do that for free? No. Their tax levies will increase. You have the potential of getting rid of all that and people having higher tax bills. Have you, how do you not do this without the specifics? Have you simply completed the very personal mission of eliminating townships? You can check it off your bucket list saying you did it without regard to the consequences. That bill recently passed, and I understand the wording to say the highway commissioner position is eliminated and the township assumes assets, liabilities, responsibilities, and taxation rights, and can then terminate all highway department employees and subcontract responsibilities to an outside contractor or other local government. Has this board inquired about costs of subcontracting with anyone yet? What are those costs? What order would Mchenry Township be, or response time, for snow removal considering these other companies' existing work? If the same staff is kept on and only administered by the township, you still need to hire an overall manager. My point is, there are more questions than answers at this time. Without a proper cost-benefit study, there are no facts for the voting public to consider. Why the rush? Have an independent study completed and then bring it forward.
Okay, thank you. Brittany Vick.
I'm Brittany Vick. I live at 5208 West Orchard Drive in McHenry. First, Mr. Rakestraw, thanks for wasting my time because you decided to change your vote at the last minute following your fearless leader. I just have a few things that I want to quickly address. You claim that your mission is to save all of us money. Here we sit holding a special meeting to which you are all conveniently being paid for. You voted down the fact that no one's going to get payment after your term is over. I think that's kind of crazy. I think it's also super clear to a lot of people in this room that you've all run for these positions without full knowledge of what your duties even are. It seems like 99% of your agenda is just whatever suits you best. We had to purchase laptops for you guys because you just couldn't get it together. You didn't want to use your own, and I'm just really hoping that you're not using your laptop, Bob, to post your crap on Facebook all the time. I really want to know. I really want to know why you're so adamant on pushing this onto November's ballot. The Consolidation Task Force a few years back proved that there was really no saving that could be done. And just like at the last meeting, that you guys had asked for extra time to go over things, et cetera, before meetings, I think that you owe us the same respect.
Okay, I have Stan J. Mill. Is that correct?
First of all, thank you for giving me a few minutes here, 3 to be exact. All right, we've heard you, now you can hear us. I am the 9th person to step up here, excuse me, the 8th person to step up here. It's 7-0 right now, and we're gonna make it 8-0, being against this thing. All right, first of all, as previously stated, no one can tell us the cost to abolish the Mchenry Township Road District. So there's one. All right, 2, if it's abolished, who or whom will maintain these roads? You haven't been able to tell us that yet either. Has the trustees, supervisor discussed with the McHenry County Highway Department if they will take us? And do they have the resources? And 2, where do we go on the list? Are we last or are we first? Or someplace in the middle? 5, we get poor roads and poor service. We're gonna have higher taxes, lower property values, quality of service will be reduced. And one thing we haven't talked about is provide safe routes for emergency vehicles. Not only are McHenry Township roads used for McHenry Township, but Fox Lake comes through here, and a few other ones come through here when they're on the way to Nipsey or Centagra. The Wall Street Journal did a study about cost of employees. The highest employees are the state employees, followed by county employees, and last are township employees. So we're getting good value already. Why do we need to change that? It was just previously stated, if you want to save money, and I really appreciate wanting to save money, 75% of my tax bill does not belong to the township, but it belongs to the school districts. So if you want to save money, let's go take that piece of pie and divulge that out. Thank you.
Okay, Larry Molohay? Sorry if I mispronounced it, Larry.
Thank you. My name is Larry Mullally. I reside at 7312 Parkwood Drive, Wonder Lake. I've been a resident there over 20 years, and I would like to be a resident there another 20 years at least. But the way things are going, it doesn't look very hopeful. I see things here that aren't being looked into in depth, all right? I've worked in government risk for over a decade, recently with the Intergovernmental Risk Management Agency. I was a risk coordinator for them there. And the path you guys are going down without the research and the backing of what you're doing is probably something you're not going to be able to back out of a decade from now. I know at a meeting, one of the trustees mentioned about saving $10 for each resident here in our township. And that'd be a great thing. But I'd prefer for you to look at saving $50 for me over the next 10 years instead of today. All right? Consider the liability of what we're looking at by lack of maintenance. I've worked in the city of Naperville's legal department. I've seen how liability comes about in many ways, from poor maintenance of ownership of property. Yes, they're self-insured, and they have the pockets deep enough to cover it. Obviously, we're not self-insured. But how long do we think somebody's gonna cover our back end when we're making bad decisions? All right, poor maintenance of roads and things that happen to them on roads, including bicycles riding down the roads hitting potholes, kids getting hit by cars because they come out from behind some grass that happens to be 8 feet tall along the roadway and a car didn't see them. Who do you think is gonna be liable for these things? Yeah, the driver will be liable for quite a bit, but you'll be surprised how much liability you guys have. So look in the future and look at what liabilities you have and you're responsible for today in the future. Quit worrying about the $10 you're gonna save today. Think about what you're gonna do to us 20 years from now. Thank you.
Roger Gerstead, I believe.
Hello, Roger Gerstead, 5522 West Lake Shore Drive, Wonder Lake. I've been a resident of Mchenry Township for many, many years, moved to Wonder Lake in 1984. But I really want to stand up here and tell you guys, you know, look in the mirror and see what kind of a job you're doing. I mean, Mchenry Township is a great township. I've had the luxury of being out the last 9 days between 5 and 7 a.m. trying to make the white stuff disappear. But I want to tell you one thing, the township roads were the best prepared roads to get around. So how can you say, let's make a change? You know, are we really doing that without facts? Are we just saying we can eliminate a position and save ourselves some money and assume the responsibility by somebody else? I mean, every change has a learning curve. That learning curve is gonna cost money, whether it's in services or whether it's in dollars. So what we have such a great thing going, we've got a great senior program in Mchenry Township, we have a great highway department. Why do you wanna really make the change when we don't have actual information that's gonna prove we can save money, because nobody wants to pay any more taxes? I can agree to that. So thank you, and consider that in your decision. Thank you.
Next I have John McCredo.
Again, thank you for the 3 minutes. I have one question for the board. I'm a former Republican committeeman, and when I ran for the job, I really tried to represent the people. And I think what you're failing to do here is everyone's talking about, you're not representing your people. It's like you're on your own agenda. And I don't know how to ask you to make sure you represent everyone that's come up here. I mean, look at this room. We're obviously all here for the same reason. We don't agree with what you're trying to force down on us. Let's do the study, let's make sure we're gonna save money, and move on. Thank you.
Eric Sabrinson.
Eric Simerson, 5402 West Flanders. When you guys were running, I had your sign out in front of my house. I had your sign out in front of my business. The main reason I did that was because the previous board had what appeared to be a lack of transparency, particularly in their appointment process. So I supported you guys because I thought you guys were going to do a better job at transparency. But what you guys are doing is the exact opposite. Over the last few days, I've talked to some of the residents here in Mchenry Township, and all of them, have some comment about, so who they promised the job to, or who they promised the contract to, if they're gonna sub it out. The perception is that there's already a backroom deal in place. So you guys, as public officials, need to be transparent. You need to come up with a plan. You need to show us what your plan is. Let us know what you're going to do. You've got 90 days from the election to when you would have to have the plan in place. You can't come up with it in those 90 days. That's going to be the first week of February next year, would be the first week that you guys would be taking over the responsibilities of the Township Highway Department. Look what the weather was this year. Look at the mess you'd have to be dealing with. You need to have a plan in place. You need to hold some meetings, talk amongst yourselves in those meetings, but do it in a public place where where the public knows what your plan is. Talk to the taxpayers and the residents, talk to the county, talk to the municipalities, come up with a plan before you go forward with a vote, and put yourselves in a spot where you have to come up with something quick in those 90 days, or where it looks like you've already brokered a deal in the back room. You've got a couple of options. You could keep the department internal, hire somebody to run it. You could sub it out to a municipality, you could sub it out to the county, you could sub it out to an individual contractor. Out of those options, what happens if the county doesn't want it, the municipalities don't want it, your bids come back higher, and you end up having to spend more than Mr. Condon's salary to run the department? It hurts the taxpayers. If you don't even have a plan for what's going to happen, nobody can figure out what those numbers are going to be. If you have a plan in place, somebody independent, if you guys don't want to spend the money on a study, individual voters could go and spend the money on a study and come up with a plan, be able to show you the data. But you guys couldn't even go get a study right now without a plan in place for what's going to happen as soon as you take over. So my suggestion would be that you don't put it on the ballot yet, that you take the time, come up with a plan, meet with the voters, meet with the stakeholders, and then come up with a plan.
Okay, I have Mark Thurston.
Mark Justin, 313 North Green Street, Mchenry. As most of you know, in my professional life, I travel these roads. I can tell you in the snow days that your township didn't pick up the plow when they had to go to the village of Wonder Lake or the city of Mchenry, because we were following them to a death call. You should be proud that that plow was down. They said, oh, it's the village of Wonder Lake. We can't plow their snow. So that's my statement there. Get the plan, please. I'm not too far from the center with you, Anderson. Get the plan, go to NIU, go to some university, and get a plan, guys. It's the only thing we ask as taxpayers. Now, if you dissolve the fire district, where does the levy go? Does it disappear? If it disappears, then are you going to come back and ask us for a referendum to increase the township levy? I don't know, because I don't think anybody else here in this room knows, except the great scholars and the lawyers. And last but not least, you know I sit on the fire board. Oh, I drank the water from Jack Frank's. We lowered the levy 2 years in a row, $1 million each. Did we get a thank you from any taxpayer after we told them? 0. So the third year, we were to raise the levy to be equal so we keep the levy. I lost the vote, 3 against 2. 3 years later, we need that $1 million to put more paramedics on the road to save more lives. Well, guess what, guys? We drank the water, our levy dropped, and we're stale. That's my deal. Get the plan first, and I'll vote for you.
Okay, Steve Kroll.
Good evening, everybody. Steve Kroll, 5912 Giant Oak Road, Wonder Lake, Illinois. Lived here for a long time. Got my family here. My parents live in Mchenry Township. I hate to be the only guy here. Unfortunately, my perception of this is very interesting. As a non-employee of the township, what I feel the board doesn't see, and I hope that you do see this, the majority of the people today are here that are speaking work for or indirectly have someone that works for the township.
You're wrong.
It doesn't matter. I give my point. I give my 3 minutes. Everybody else got their 3 minutes.
Give us 3 minutes.
Here's my point. Everybody everybody here is resistant to change. Consolidation works 100%. Every corporation that is still in existence from the 1980s consolidated. We don't need 2 payroll people, 2 human resource people, 2 lawyers, 2 of everything. When you consolidate, you save money. We know it. We need to save money on our taxes, or we'll all be stuck with houses you can't sell. My house was worth $800,000 8 years ago. It's lucky to get $250,000. Why? Because no one will buy it, because no one wants to live here to pay the tax burden. I realize the majority of it is a school district, but once we start with here, we can work our way through the rest of it and get it so that we can live in a place that we all love to enjoy and be neighbors. Thanks for your time.
All right, John. Hey, John Shield, please.
Hey, if I could just speak for a second, Craig, I'm going to say thank you for saying it. Everybody's allowed to have their opinion, okay? So if you disagree with him, just keep it to yourself. You don't have to applaud to him, but don't be rude to the man. I think he's all right. He's proud enough to stand up and say something, okay? So keep your comments to yourself if you disagree with him. And I've already invited him to my office to come and talk to me about his ideas. I'll listen to his ideas, and we'll do that, okay? So don't be rude to people. Stand up, say your piece, and then sit back down. Be polite. If you agree with them, applaud. Otherwise, keep your comments to yourself, please.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Steve Shield.
John Shield.
John Shield, excuse me. Looking at the name ahead of you.
Boy, I'm glad that last guy went first. Hope you got it all out of your system. I'm going to read my notes so I kind of get what I wanted to say. I wrote these after reading the article this morning's paper. You've probably all been following those articles. There's been a lot of them. I think the point about uncertainty about costs, you know, if you change the structure of the government, there's uncertainty about what the costs are really going to be. I think it's a good point. Can't argue it. But it's not a deal breaker for me. Seriously, how often do we ever have guarantees and certainty about the results that are going to flow from a change? Especially a change like making structural changes in units of government. Absolutely never, I would say. But your point about uncertainty does provide some clarity. I ponder the likely impact on road costs of keeping the status quo versus replacing it, and I expect cost savings. We're all accustomed to making decisions and dealing with changes in the absence of perfect information. That's life. It's normal every day. I'm okay with some uncertainty. Your assertion that uncertain results are ahead, true enough, it doesn't change my preference on the issue. I support consolidation for improved accountability. All of our townships have the same structure as Algonquin Township. As we are seeing with disgust and amazement, Algonquin Township is a cauldron of social pathology and runaway personal ambitions. Here in Mchenry Township, we're not that. Not yet, anyway. I'd like to close the barn door while we still can, before the horses run out and wreck the pasture, before our township blows up in petty squabbles and high-cost lawsuits. I want to consolidate for improved accountability and for probable savings. We're not talking here and now about abolishing Mchenry Township. We're talking about a much more modest proposal of consolidating these 2 units of government into one. The status quo, we all know, has brought us into a tax nightmare. Let's make some intelligent adjustments.
All right, last I have an Andy Glab. Well, if there's anybody else that wants to sign up, I will give you the opportunity.
You jumped me, I was 3.
There's 2 lists over there, Craig, there might be confusion.
Oh, maybe there's another list, I don't have it.
I was after,
He signed up right after me.
Are you Glasgow? Okay, I'll come back to you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I missed somebody, but we'll go to Andy, and then if there's another list, we'll get it. Okay, go ahead.
Andy Glad, 5001 West Oakwood Drive, Mchenry, Illinois. The precinct commitment for probably close to 20 years.
an alderman for over 21 years. I can tell you, I've looked at a lot of problems as far as roads and everything else. Gentleman said that, oh yeah, consolidation is great, you know, all these companies that consolidate. Well, all these companies don't just decide to consolidate like that. They do their studies, they group together, they have their meetings, they figure everything out before they move. That's how companies exist. They don't roll dice and say this is what they're gonna do. I've noticed that this whole crowd out here is all for waiting and investigating what is going on and how things are going to affect. Even as an alderman, I worry about how it's going to affect. We've got agreements with the township on roads. Have you guys even looked at how you're going to handle that? I don't want you guys to go out with an agreement and bring in some contractor that we have no idea what they're going to do. Have you ever thought about that? You do some of the other municipalities. I can tell you right now that, you know, you have to inform the voters. Yes, the voters get to pick and choose what goes on. But you're not doing any kind of justice to the voters if you don't tell them anything, or if you just try to paint a pretty picture without any facts. Bob, 30 years I know you've been out there with townships and having a bug up your, excuse me, because I don't want to use the same language that Mr. Cunningham used at the last meeting. 21 years I've been an alderman, and I have taken and had many arguments at council meetings. Some I win and a lot I lose, but you know what? I always fight for the individual, I fight for the residents, and I always treat all my other elected officials and the public with respect. And that's what I expect out of this group. I mean, you guys need to actually do your homework so that whatever you propose is good for the average resident. I can tell you right now, I intend to have ward meetings, and I will invite every resident that wishes to come, whether they're in the city or not, to discuss this issue. And as you guys come up with more information and maybe some kind of a game plan, I'll be happy to share that with everybody. But I'm not going to sit there and watch what I consider right now a political move. You don't think, again, I've been a precinct committeeman for a long time, and I'm the only one that's bringing it up, but it's political. And that bothers me, and it bothers me dearly. Because politics is great if you want to run, but by golly, when you're in there, you're no longer a politician. You should be a government servant, and that's to the average resident. So think about it. Let's get a game plan. Let's do it right. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I think I missed, is it Mark or Matt Lasko? Mark. I thought I was going third, now I forgot what I was going to say. Hello. My name is Mark Alasso. I live at 411 Mineral Springs in Mchenry, unincorporated Mchenry Township. I'm here to hopefully point out a few facts to show why eliminating the position of Highway Commissioner before an in-depth study would be a recipe for disaster. Maintaining around 100 miles of public roads and managing employees is no easy task. The work and coordination that needs to be done to accomplish this is monumental. To think otherwise, I feel, is very short-sighted. Our road district's primary responsibility is to keep us residents safe and keep our roads safe. And ultimately, this responsibility falls on the Highway Commissioner. So what costs to make sure that our safety is being managed correctly? To make sure our mail gets delivered, to make sure our garbage gets picked up? By eliminating that position, and only that, and that's all we know it's going to save, it's 4.6% of the annual roads budget, or $431 a month. My change in my outrageous $13,500 a year tax bill would be less than 25 bucks. I'm not going to move out of the state so that I can save $25. It's a small price to pay for my family's safety and ensure that my mail gets delivered and know that my garbage will get picked up. So all this kind of begs the question, what is the big rush? Why not do what's right and have some hard concrete evidence that shows us overtaxed property owners
what we will save and what we will lose before we can cast an educated vote. I like smaller government. I feel that I'm overtaxed. I also feel that lowering my property tax bill by a measly 0.18% is better than nothing. But what I don't like being is uninformed, making it impossible to cast an educated vote. Put something like this on the ballot without being completely vetted is completely reckless and irresponsible. Before I can vote to save $25 a year, I need to know what, if any, is the downside. It is your responsibility to us citizens to have that answer before putting a referendum on the ballot that could jeopardize the safety of us all. Thank you.
Darius, I can't read the last name. Rope, maybe?
My name is Darius. I live in Wonder Lake, Jerry Schreiber. And I support the abolition of the townships. I just think it's a good idea to get our taxes down. I think it's going to be very challenging for me to ever become a homeowner with the fact of the current property tax values. And it's very difficult right now to purchase anything as far as when it comes to living a house. Anyway, I support the abolition of townships, and I stand with Bob. I think getting our tax down and overall consolidating the government in the state of Illinois is a good idea. And if we start here, it opens the door for subcontractors to come in and maybe lower bid some of these jobs and save the state money, which in turn saves everybody here money. So, thank you.
Okay, I have a Lee Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. Let me start off by saying I am a supervisor at Nunda Township. I've given this a lot of thought, and obviously I've followed those full minutes. So I'm going to bring this from a little bit different perspective. Oh, I'm sorry. This board, potentially, or certainly the next board, if you do this, will be responsible for all the duties of your current township supervisor or road commissioner. And let me ask you, are you prepared to be awoken in the middle of the night, to be available when there's snowstorms, when there's flooding, when there's tornadoes, when there's emergencies that need a decision and need a decision now? And it may be a financial decision. This week we have potential rainfall coming that could cause flooding. Are you all prepared to make those decisions, or allow somebody that has the responsibility to make that? So I think you should really think about that. Should this fall on a township board, or should this be an elected official that's duly authorized to make those decisions? And lastly, I'd say, why in the world would you not do a cost analysis? Thank you.
All right, have I missed anybody? I've got another list here. Okay, come on up, then. Well, state your name, please.
I thought I signed up, it said resident, non-resident, and I thought that's what the issue was. I signed up on the wrong list.
Okay, no problem.
My name is Ned Newman. I live at 308 Country Club Drive in Mchenry. Unincorporated Mchenry Township. I live on a dedicated road. For 45 years, I lived on a privately maintained, public, non-dedicated road. For over 45 years, 60 households in my subdivision, I feel were cheated out of our share of over $500,000 of taxes that we paid to the Mchenry Township Road District. For 45 years, I tried to get our road district accepted, our road accepted by the Township Road District, and it was denied by one person. 3 years ago, one person made the decision to accept it. My reason for consolidation is not to save money, although I don't object to that, but rather to have the decisions made by the road district to be made by a board, not by an individual member. I would have no problem with hiring Mr. Condon at the same dollars that he gets now, and everything go on as it is, as long as the major decisions, such things as acceptance and rejection of applications to be in the road district, would be made by a board. You know, to say that you people don't know how to run a road district and therefore shouldn't be doing this is like saying none of us should be a school board member because we don't know how to teach in a classroom. I was criticized recently by Mr. Condon correctly because I made reference to him being somewhat like God. What I was saying was correct. I said it improperly, and I apologize for it. What happened in Algonquin, the nepotism on steroids, and the abuses that happened there would not have happened if the road district had been run by a board rather than a one-man show. You know, for many years I've been a vocal critic of the township, and it's not been the public aid or the assessor even, although probably I should, the senior center or the youth center, but rather it's been the road district. And this resolution only gives the voters an opportunity 9 months from now to make a decision. More than enough time to assess and study and vet what the results would be. Let me see if I missed anything. I don't think so, but and this is not the big issue. This is not abolishing a township. This is not consolidating townships. This is merging the Mchenry Township operation into one board. And everything can stay the same if the board is running, and I would be happy. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that wishes to speak that maybe signed up on the wrong list, or?
I would like to.
You can speak up.
Jim Condon, 4823 Loyola Drive, also Mchenry Township Highway Commissioner. Just 3 quick points that came up that I just want to clarify. I think, John, you had mentioned this is a tax nightmare that we have right now. It absolutely is a tax nightmare. But you need to look at where the taxes, where there's any real savings. You mentioned we need to make changes and they need to be intelligent adjustments. That's simply why we're asking for a study to verify. Let's make something, an intelligent adjustment. You're right, we won't know for sure until it's over. Wherever you went, John, where did you go? There you are, there. So we won't know until it's over, but we will have an 80% chance of being right. That's all we're asking for. That's simple. Second, there's one thing that nobody has mentioned here yet, and I didn't realize it until about a month ago. The way that the levy is set up right now is you have the township funds, and the township funds are in the township levy, and the road district funds come out of a road district levy, and those stay apart. They don't get pooled like they do in municipalities, or in the county, or in the state. And as a result, those monies that you pay for the roads stay toward the roads. They are not changed on the whim of a changing board. They stay there and they're spent there. That's one of the reasons why the townships are successful in maintaining the roads as well as they are. Unfortunately, what happens is, as you get into the municipalities, I think, Andy, you can speak to this, you guys go through some tough times, and you take the money from the road district that we would be spending on roads, and tackle this other problem first, and leave the roads deteriorate. Now you're in a situation where you've got roads that are depleted, and you can't afford to fix it. So that's one of the huge benefits that I never even thought of, and I'm telling you, that makes a big difference of why it's a good system the way you have it right now. And the last thing, Mr. Newman, I would say is, you mentioned the board, and I understand exactly what you are saying, and I was one of those trustees that you came and talked to, and I didn't listen to you. I went to the road commission. I didn't do my homework, and I apologize for that already. But I can tell you who's not doing the homework now. The 4 board members are not doing their homework. They haven't asked me about one bill that they've paid. They haven't asked me about the levy, and until recently, I forced them to talk to me about some of my purchases. They haven't asked me about those. And as soon as they gave me that input, we talked about it, and I took their input, and I'll do some of the things that they'll do. We're going to agree on 80 to 90% of everything, and then the other 10%, somebody has to make a decision. So maybe we ought to work in the system that we have right now, at least for the first 8 months while they're here, and they haven't done any of that. So that's part of the problem, okay? So those are the points that I have. Thanks.
there anybody else that wanted to speak that didn't get a chance to? Okay, none being heard, we'll move on. Public comment is over. Okay, we're on to the new business of tonight's meeting. We have a review of the resolution number 13-0218. Resolution to place question on the November 6, 2018 general election ballot regarding abolishing the Mchenry Township Road District. Do we need some discussion on this, gentlemen? Do we want any discussion?
Discussion on the resolution?
On the resolution?
No. But you have a motion for the vote though, right?
I'm not making that motion, you could.
Mike, you wanna make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Rakestraw to vote on this resolution. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Cunningham. Oh yeah, board members, you can discuss this now if you want, before we take a vote. Okay. Okay, if it's clear, we'll be voting, a yes vote, we'll put this on the ballot, a no vote, will not put it on the ballot.
Mr. Supervisor Adams, might be recognized for a second, for one quick question?
One quick question,
As
yes.
part of the discussion. Mr. Rakestraw, would you like to tell the community here why you changed your vote from last time till now?
Okay, Mr. Condon, I'm sorry, that's not appropriate at this time. All right.
I'd like to answer that.
No, if you'd like to answer it, that's fine.
The motion that was made by Bob Anderson, I did not support. The motion that I made, I do support.
Okay. Just so you understand, the motion we're voting on now is the same motion Bob Anderson presented.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Okay. Okay.
Only question.
Okay.
I'd like to, may I say something?
Yes, I'm sorry, Stan, go ahead.
I haven't seen what that referendum, what is exactly, word by word, what it's gonna say. If this passes, I want every voter to know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Because most referendums, they're full of legal mumbo jumbo, and the last couple of referendums I went to, I didn't understand anything. I just I want somebody to read to me exactly what that referendum
Okay,
is.
I will be happy to do that. It's in the resolution here. The proposition on the ballot will read, and this is set by law, the board cannot change this. Shall the road district of Township of Mchenry be abolished with all the rights, powers, duties, assets, properties, liabilities, obligations, and responsibilities being assumed by the Township of Mchenry? And then it's a yes or no. And that's how it will read on the ballot according to law.
That's exactly how the question will be on the ballot, right there,
Correct.
by law.
By law.
That's a lot clearer than most questions are. Much clearer than most questions.
Do we have any other discussion on this matter at this point?
I have,
Okay, go ahead.
everybody in this room thinks that if this resolution passes, that his job's gonna disappear and road district's gonna vanish.
It is. It is.
No, that's not what the resolution says. The resolution says that you're combining two forms of government into one.
No, it doesn't say that.
Read the law. Read the law that got passed.
Well, that's the way I understand it.
We don't know is what the issue is. We'd like to know.
Okay,
You're voting without us knowing.
all right, let's move on.
Here's the law.
Let's move on, unless, okay. No, we may not. The board can discuss it further if they'd like.
I call the question.
Mr. Anderson's calling on the question. All right, we have a first and a second, so let's have a vote. Mr. Wojcicki?
I listen to the people in this room, and I have to vote no.
Okay. Mr. Rakestraw?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, no. Motion carries.
See you in November.
Yeah, you didn't listen to the people.
We will take care of it.
All right. Wait, there's, we're not done. Okay. We can leave if they want. All right, moving on. There's no old business on the agenda. We'll go past old business. There is none. Please, let's continue our meeting. Quiet. Okay. There is no need for executive session at this time. It's now time for board member comments. Do we have any?
I'd like to ask Roger Dursted a question. How come all your new developments are in Williams Bay and Twin Lakes, Wisconsin?
Well, you're moving, right?
Houses in Lake Geneva. Why is that?
Okay, any other comments from the board? Any other comments from the board? None being heard, are there any additional public comments at this time?
You didn't listen to the people.
Yes. I'd like to make a public comment.
One at a time, that's fine. State your name and address again, please.
My name is, again, it's Ned Newman. The question was asked, why Mr. Rakestraw changed his vote. This is an entirely different motion. I understood the motion a couple of weeks ago that failed, gave the responsibilities of the road district to the supervisor, again, to one person. My objection is that one person was running. This motion tonight gives it to the board, a democratic body. I clearly think that it was a different motion, and I don't think you changed your vote. I think it's a new vote on a new motion.
We can go back and look at the record. The motion was exactly the same. Okay, state your name.
Gary Barla, 2012 Villanova Drive. Mr. Wojcicki, the word is abolish. It's abolishing. That means it's gone. He's not here anymore. It's not a position. So, just to make that clear, he's gone. And you can never get it back. Period. End of sentence. It's ridiculous. I mean, just, you gotta understand what you're doing.
They don't care.
All right, one more public comment here.
Carol Persky, I'm back again. What, you're gonna advertise, let's save taxpayers' money, abolish this. We don't know what taxpayers' money you might be able to save. We don't know, are you gonna contract it out? You don't know the cost of it. Are you gonna keep the same employees? If you do, you're gonna have somebody manage it? You're not saving a nickel.
All right.
We need to be informed.
Any other comments? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record again.
Absolutely. Andy Glad, 5001 West Oakwood Drive, Mchenry, Illinois. I don't think this board understands what happens if this referendum were to pass. Has any of you even looked at state statutes? Do you know what you're going to get yourself into? Do you understand that according to state statutes, if the Township Road Commission is abolished, it goes, the finances go to the board, which is what you have right now. The rest goes to the Township Supervisor according to the individuals become regular employees. Now, has anybody looked at, if you decide to go out and contract, you put a lot of people out of business, a lot of people out of work. That is cost to the government that we have to pay unemployment now to those people. Again, what you did tonight is totally, in my opinion, irresponsible. I will be having my board meetings, I will invite people out, and we will look at this. And again, I invite the board to come if people don't want to fall asleep while everybody's talking. But I can tell you right now that I will do everything in my power to make sure that this referendum fails, because you guys should have egg on your face right now. Bob, 30 years, like I said, you've done a lot of study. I admire your knowledge and everything else. The problem is there's book smart and street smart. You've got the book smart. You got to find somebody that has some street smart.
This is America, buddy. The people have a right to change it.
Yes, but we gotta know what we're shaping.
Let's keep order. You didn't represent the keep order, please.
Yes, you did.
All right. Is there any more public comment? Mr. Bertrand.
Well, he's gonna be on the ballot in a couple months.
Robert Beltran, still at 2814 Regular Road. Two things. We need to look at the dollars involved here, and you'll find that most of the money that you're paying in your township taxes, between the township, the road district, and the other township taxes, goes to the road district. the board now will have a much better budget that they'll be able to manipulate in ways that you may not even imagine that they'll be planning to do. The other thing is, there's an old saying that when you've got a hammer, all your problems look like a nail. Well, at least with a hammer and a nail, you can build something. But when you're using a wrecking ball, what's the consequence? Nothing gets built with a wrecking ball.
All right, thank you. Last call, any more comments for Mr. President?
Well, my comment would be to ask you as board members, now that you voted to put it on the ballot, that you would now come to the public, ask for public input, come up with a plan so that the voters know what they're going to be voting on in November, so that they can look at it, figure out what it's going to cost, figure out if they would support it. Because at this point, there's so many questions about how it could happen, what's going to happen with the road district, what's going to happen with our roads. Is it going to be best to sub it out to a contractor? Is it going to be best to keep it in-house? Is it going to be best to sub it out to the county? What happens to the road district buildings? What happens to the road district equipment? There's so many questions that need answers, and it needs to have public input. It needs to be done by you guys in a public meeting, not outside of the public meetings. So, and then I'd ask all of you, the taxpayers, if you'd show up to more meetings, like the school board meetings. We would love to have your input, and you can make even more of a difference there too. So, okay.
Okay, any more public comment? Come on up, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Scott Weisberg. I'm the Township Highway Commissioner. After speaking with Mr. Condon about this, I understood that his feelings were that he didn't care really how it went. He was all for some form of consolidation. All he asked for simply to the trustees was to do your due diligence and make sure that you made it clear that there was going to be a savings involved. What you've done here tonight is you've taken away the oldest form of government that our forefathers set up, and they set it up for a reason. So there couldn't be any meddling with the way that our budgets work, and that the roads would get taken care of. I question Mr. Anderson's motives. I know I've looked all on Facebook. I can see clear as day that he hates townships. The next step for all you residents will be that the township will be dissolved. That I can guarantee you. Now, you show no taxpayer savings, and it just, to me, this is unbelievable, but you know what? Kind of good for me. I look forward to bidding to take care of your roads. Once you dissolve your township and they're gone, who do you think's going to take it over? Another township. Because the county can't do it, villages can't do it, townships will do it. And it'll be another township that you'll have to sign an intergovernmental agreement with, and you'll get a great sweet deal the first year, and then the next year, guess what? They're going to stick it to you. And I can't believe how spineless this board is, because you know what? My board, where I'm at, this would never happen, and it will never happen.
All right, is there anybody else who wants to speak yet? Okay, none being heard.
You got to look all around.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see you over there.
Gentlemen on the board, just like to tell you, thank you very much tonight for giving the people who are the ones that pay your salaries and vote you in the choice to make instead of someone else. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Okay, sir, come on. Give your name and your residence.
My name is Dennis Peel. Live in 218 North Hill Road, past 16 years. Road District. Awesome job, past 16 years. Thank you. I'm a township employee for a different township. Some of the times when I get called in, they're already out. I can make sure I can get to my job, to make sure the first responders can get to their jobs, so on and so forth. You guys were all elected by a person like me. You're all embarrassing. You're not looking at the big numbers. You're telling me I'm gonna save money on my taxes, just like that gentleman over there. My home is greatly decreased over the years, but I bought when the market was high. It's like you gamble, you take chances. I see where all my taxes go. You're gonna decrease my tax bill by how much? 13 bucks? That sounds pretty unreasonable when I'm gonna watch all my services walk away. You got senior services that go on, everything like that. I don't know. Very foolish, very foolish. But the township that I work for, I'm gonna be one of the guys plowing your road when we get the IGA. And you know what? You're gonna see some impeccable service just like you're seeing from your guys right now, because they service just as well as we do. Thanks.
Is there any more comment? Any more comment? I'm not missing anybody, right? Okay, with that, gentlemen, I have, can we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Wojcicki. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None being heard, meeting is adjourned.
They all gotta get out we want, which are the ones that care. You don't know how to follow the music. You just gotta walk. But there's no, they don't mind it. Give us something to analyze. No, I think what you're gonna do is save money. Give us bam. See a plan, then we'll get one. That's how we see it. That's what we see right now.
This is not the people, this is our
Listen, I just like to take my job.
I appreciate that. There's no comment. I see some real.
Based on what I know and what I want to figure out.
And I would like to, each sell those out.
I used to come in an hour and a half before the meeting, sit down, touch every invoice and look at it and check it off each one. All of it is. All of it is.
Going through these.
Oh, yeah, that's it. But that's where I'm coming from.
But we want these days bigger than it is.
I'm just afraid you can never go down. With what kids voted in November, you can never go back. What's going to become is those four positions and the supervisor positions are going to become even more political versus service jobs for local communities. And it's going to get caught up in the state. The only motivation for yes, correct.
You want to make we should sit down. It's all going to be about. We should talk about the school.
Yeah, the pay, the next board, the next board can vote.
And so you're familiar with it.
4 years. Once the 4 years are up, when the next board is elected, because that's when their terms are up. If the board changes. All four of those positions are going to be. Well, no, it'd be 5 years. It's going to be specifically.
So right now, I have a person to sit down with.
Because they need solutions supporting the real. And it's all going to be about.
And that's what I think.
All the power is going to be centered on the supervisor. Correct. They won't take the position. Yeah. It's going to be the only.
I'll take it personally.
That's what good assessment. That's all we're headed to. What we're trying to do is start an idea. Well, not all happened. But then they're falling apart.
It's just a thing.
The whole deal. Before I thought it was 3-2.
It was 3-2 thing against. This time it was 3-2.
Well, who voted against?
The person that was just in here. No. Oh yeah, Adams and Stan. And Stan voted no again. And Craig voted no. And Rick Straw looked at the other side. That's all.
So it'll be ready for the informational meeting that is going to have to take place.
You gotta tell people. Who's going to hold the informational meeting?
There's going to have to be an informational meeting.
Do they? Good luck. They don't even know that. They haven't even been in the building. Well, they have been in the building. Business hours for 1 day or 2 conversations. They don't. They come here on a regular basis. And I think.
I've all along said if it really is a good deal, then I'll be the first one to push the deal. Let's find out. It's not that hard to do. This is politically motivated instead of representing people and doing what's right. That's all it is.
Even if you disagree, which I'm pretty sure you agree with them, it's like, I can't vote with this is what they're saying. I at least respect them for that.
Stan's an honest person.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I may disagree with Stan, but he's a good guy, and he's not gonna just go along.
Yep.
I will.
And we're done.